Hey everybody, and welcome to the Drafting Offers Podcast, the podcast where you get to vote for each episode's draft champ. We're realtors from Southern Ontario, but this is not another real estate podcast. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, catch every episode on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts, and follow us on social at the Drafting Offers Podcast. Here are your hosts, Brad Warner, Scott Morgan, and John Fielding. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Drafting Offers Podcast. How's it going, fellas? Scott, Brad, John, all here with you again today. Everything good?
I'm doing well. I mean, I'm red-faced today. I haven't been on a bender or anything like that. I just got off the bike over here, so sorry if I'm not looking my best today.
Oh, don't be sorry. Hey, I waited until after the podcast maybe to get on the bike, but what I should have done was before, so I have all the energy.
At least I don't think people are watching the podcast for our looks. Not
They
for me,
better
anyways.
They better not
Yeah,
be.
it's not a fashion show. There's a lot of hoodies being worn. I think my favorite thing about our fashion attire is every week John just has a solid collection of t-shirts, and every time he pops on, I'm excited because it's been pretty much a new one every time. Are you running long t-shirts or are you?
This is a long sleeve today. It's a little chilly in the Drafting Offers Podcast studio, at least one of our three studios. I wore the long sleeve Metallica today just because. But that's it. Yeah, I mean, hey, and we are going to get into a little bit of a discussion about weather and things like that today too, because obviously if you're where we are in Southern Ontario, you got a pretty solid blast of winter, maybe a week or so ago, and we may see another. The temperatures have been up and down, and that's why people are getting colds, and I sound a little rough today. But I think we will. I think we're going to unpack a few things, and one of the things that we really want to talk about is how to get your house ready for the winter, or how to get your property ready for the winter. Whether you live in a suburban townhouse, or whether you live in a downtown condo, or a farmhouse somewhere in rural Belleville, rural Quinte. That's what we're going to talk about today. So
Brad just did the look over his shoulder to be like, "Oh boy, not all Belleville is rural here."
Wow, I would say none of it is.
Yeah.
But
it was the first thing I thought of. I'm like, Belleville. No, that's not the name. That's the name of one of the towns. The whole region is called Quinte. There's a lot of other places that I should know.
No, you did well.
A lot of things popped in your head super quick there.
You
That's
were really
interesting
thinking.
peek into John's brain.
And we actually had hail last night. I'm not sure if you guys had that, but it was like the smallest little pieces. It actually sounded really cool.
Whacking the window,
tiniest.
yeah.
Yeah.
We got the same thing. My dog has crazy anxiety, so the wind even scares him. But the fact there was pellets and stuff, he was hiding in our son's closet because that's his safe zone. So we knew things were going on. But it was fitting because we're going to be talking, like John said, about things to do for your home to prepare it for the winter. And I have not done any of those things. So I was kind of panicking going, I hope we're not in like a frozen zone here, because I got hoses ready to rock. I got patio furniture outside still. I think our outdoor TV is still hanging up covered. So hoping that works when we take it in. But
this certainly was like a big reminder. It was like, get outside and or some of the stuff inside, like you got to do this. And I like made, while we were prepping for the podcast, I was like making my own notes of things I have to do.
This part of the country, we tend to go from 0 to 100 and 100 back to 0 when the temperature changes. So we get a blasting hot summer, and then the next week it's just like below 0. We don't have a lot of the shoulder seasons here, at least where we live. We don't have a lot of spring. We don't have a lot of fall. We have a hot summer and we have a cold winter. So, basically you're going from shorts to snow tires. And
it does feel like that. I had to call and book my appointment to get the snow tires changed.
And
it doesn't feel like we have enough fall.
No, not at all.
Halloween just ended, and we're talking about snow tires. Walking the dog today, and I'm already seeing on a bunch of porches like Christmas lights are out. There's some Christmas trees there. It's just such a quick change from one to the other.
And I don't even know if I call seasons as like summer, fall, winter. Like I'm like golfing season, winter season. That's how I basically have my whole year laid out. And it's like the golf just stops like on a dime. All the courses are closed right now around here for the most part anyways, and it's kind of just like that just turned really quick because last time I golfed it was really nice out.
Yeah, I played on Friday, and as my buddy and I were getting to the cars, we were like putting our bags in, and we had that like both looked at each other and went, oh damn, like this is gonna be like 6-7 months before we're at this again. But
okay, so back to the winterizing thing. So I did print off the article that we were looking at.
This is the most effort Brad has put towards preparation for one of these episodes, and let's mark this moment down in time.
Yeah.
Brad Warner used his printer. showed up late, probably because he was using his printer. And
changed the ink cartridge. He's out of toner. The thing won't connect. All of this kind of stuff.
Killed one tree just to get the notes that we all have on our phone, but that's okay. I guess they do things different out in Belleville. Rural Belleville, as John would say.
Rural Belleville. We like to confirm and deny things that we find in the news. This is kind of more of like a sheet of kind of tips, but so there's not a lot of confirming or denying, but there is kind of maybe like a ranking of importance that we can put on some of these kinds of things.
Yeah. Or do you actually do these, or is this just kind of fluff for an article? So
sure.
Yeah, and this is American too, so I don't know if that really matters. I'll just start it off. So
apparently it did in the candy draft, so I'm just
it does.
Let's not get into that.
Yeah. We're moving away from the candy talk.
No, this will be an ongoing topic that will be brought up for years to come. But anyways, first one.
Okay, first number one on the Consumer Report article for 10 things to do prepping your house for winter. The first thing was protect indoor pipes. Is this something you guys do?
This is, I think, the only thing that I do. So when I was thinking of a list, I thought, you know what? I know I need to take my hose off of the outside exterior. Even in the garage, I do it. And I'll turn the pipes off from the inside, let the air and water flow out of them. I close them. We were chatting before this. Apparently, you might have to keep them open to keep the air out.
When it says protecting indoor pipes, like I kind of think about insulating larger pipes like that. But that's the first thing that I thought of. But it is a good point, because that's another thing. That's one of the things that I wrote down as a very important thing to do, is avoiding a burst pipe. Because so there, again, two schools of thought on this, right? So if you've got a house with an outdoor faucet tap on the front of the house or the back of the house or the side or wherever it is, there's usually a shutoff for that specific thing on the inside of the house, somewhere that's warmer, that's like protected from the element. You'll find that tap and you're supposed to shut that off and let it drain, but you're supposed to leave, I've heard that you're supposed to leave the outside tap open so that there's any water left in the pipe, and you've shut off your inside tap. Anything in that's between the insulated part of the house and the outside part of the house could freeze and burst your pipe or damage your tap in the winter.
I wonder if the heat then could push it away from the house, if there was anything in there. I don't know. I'm no scientist.
That's the thing. It's going to depend on the house, right? So I think my house is small enough, and the distance between the shut off and the actual tap outside is not that long. So I just kind of shut the outside one off. But I've heard that shutting the outside one off, again, like I said, you can kind of get ice and things like that stuck in there. So
to just kind of go on this point, it depends if you go away. Like if you're going away for a while, I had purchasers purchase a place, and in between when we purchased and closing, it was over probably a February closing, we went for a revisit and no one was there. They had not done this. The power went out for a significant period of time because no one was there, and the pipe in the basement had burst. So obviously that went through insurance and everything was fine for closing. But if you're not there and you don't know your power's gone out, if your power is on, you're generally pretty good, because obviously you're heating it enough for you to live there, so water shouldn't be freezing.
But it goes along the lines of this all has to do with water. If you have a wood stove in your house that's like your primary heat source, people often, like, I'll get these questions where people will be like, well, why do they have a wood stove and baseboard heating, and you got to tell them, like, well, if you're gone away for a while, you got to make sure your baseboard heat's on, because someone's got to be there stoking that fire, right? And you're going to want to make sure your baseboard heaters, because they haven't been on probably, sometimes if you didn't go away last year, they haven't been on in a couple of years possibly. So getting that checked out before the winter starts. And then also, if you're living in a rural property especially, you definitely want to make sure your generator's up and running. And not only is that for your electric baseboard heat if you're gone away, if you have a sump pump in your house too, that's huge. And especially if you're in a rural property and your generator's not working or not ready to go, or doesn't even automatically come on if you have a sump pump, you can run into a lot of issues there. But yeah,
my house has a sump pump.
Yeah,
I have a sump pump here. I live in a very urban area. It's low. Like I live kind of close-ish to the lake, and so it is low. And I have a sump pump here, and it runs regularly. Like it's been running for a couple of days, like on and off, because it's been very wet, very damp here. I did a video on my Instagram maybe a year or two ago, and it was about sump pumps, and it was about if your power goes out, you can buy a sump pump with a battery backup. You can also buy a sump pump. It generates its own energy kind of thing. Like as the water goes through the pipe, it actually kind of turns a turbine. It's a kind of an interesting thing. It's like a perpetually powered kind of a thing. So if the power goes out, your sump up will continue to work because it's pushing water and charging a battery. But there also are battery backups, so you can connect your sump pump to a uninterrupted power supply.
Yeah, you want to make sure, just because the snow is going to build up around your house and there's going to be water trying to come in and up from the floor, that's you're not used to, you know?
Yeah. Speaking of snow building up around the house, check your vents too. You'll have potentially a dryer vent, gas furnace vent.
Nice point. I was just writing this down to maybe jump to later when we talked about HVAC, but it's so important.
Well, there's lots of HVAC related things that we can talk about when you're getting your house or your property ready for the winter. But I wanted to kind of throw that in there because we've got a lot of houses. You'll see ice and things like that building up because of your dryer or your furnace exhaust. It's warm and it's kind of water's on there, it's melting and it freezes, and then you've got ice, and so you got to make sure those are all clear of ice and snow. All those,
especially on those big snowfall days, like a lot of the subdivisions where we are, everything's crammed so close together that there's nowhere to throw your snow. So if you're doing that, you can have an issue from time to time. But
of course, the bad thing that can happen, the negative thing that can happen there is that your house can fill up with carbon monoxide. So,
we don't want that.
So it is kind of an important thing to keep your exhaust vents clear.
That might move to the kind of top of the list of things.
Yeah. Okay. So Brad, I'm actually going to number
though. You brought up one thing that I thought was interesting that I kind of don't think of because we don't do a ton of rural, but when you do see it, so the wood stove for heat and then the baseboard heating. Are there any places that you see that just have the wood stove, or do you have to have those in unison for that very reason? If you're not home, like are you getting insurance on a place that's maybe a log home or something that's just
for the most part? I don't know if I've ever seen it where it's just a wood stove, because if you have just a wood stove, you have to have somebody come watch your property when you're not there, right? So like boiler systems are really popular, right? And everyone they're the most efficient things that you can do. And then there's like the boiler system that you're lighting the fire outside to heat up the boiler system, which is even more efficient. But yeah, if you go away for 2 or 3 weeks, your pipes are going to burst. So it's not really an option.
A lot of people are converting to geothermal now. You know, you've dug way down and you're taking your heat and your cool, and then your air exchanger isn't really a furnace, it's just a fan. And then you've got ductwork throughout the house, and you don't have a central air conditioner, but a lot of these houses, and this is going to be shameless plug alert for one of our listings. Sutton Group Heritage Realty proudly presents 1775 Concession Road 6 in Hampton. And I'm using that one as an example because that house was built in 1900 and was converted from wood-burning stove energy to geothermal. It was probably a $65,000 thing because it had all the ductwork had to be added. But honestly, the efficiency is so much better. And you can just leave the system in place and it just kind of does its own thing.
So I'm going to skip down just because
number 2 was attic or crawl space insulated. That's not something maybe you're doing annually. You're probably just making sure that you're adequate.
I feel like that's like when you first buy the house, you're making sure everything is properly insulated, and then you might do it, but like that's an every 10-year thing.
You might just check and make sure that the squirrels and raccoons haven't ripped it to shreds. But other than that, you're not checking it all the time.
Sure, I can't remember the last time I went up to my attic, to be honest.
I've never even seen my attic.
I've
never seen it. I assume it's there. I don't know.
We've been talking about the next one is service your furnace and chimney. That's number 3, and I feel like we're kind of already touching on the HVAC stuff. Is there anything more you want to add to that?
Yeah, so that was kind of the industry that I came from my summer job before, like during university. So that was something where you can get onto, if you're in older properties, that's something where having a protection plan might be good on an older product because you want to ride out that furnace or AC as long as you can without having to replace. And having a protection plan, you basically pay a monthly fee and most of the things are covered. That usually includes an annual maintenance. So those maintenances, if you talk to people in the industry, are good to have every couple years. I don't think you need it every year. But if you were going to be doing a lot of those services, a lot of people wait until they fire it up and they go, oh, we should get that maintained. One of the, that's where a lot of the hardships are happening when it's colder and when you have the need for it. And then all of a sudden, if your furnace isn't working, well, shoot, we have no heat and it's cold. Do those maintenances in the summer. Do your furnace and have them look at your AC In the summertime, when things are slower there, I would say not to do this now necessarily, because right now you're dealing with no heat situations or people getting new furnaces. So great thing to do it prior, and to make sure as you're coming into the new season, throw in your filter. Like, there's a good time to change that.
Yeah, the filter is my thing. So I have a cat. Do you guys have pets?
Yeah, I literally talked about it today, but that's okay.
Just a dog. I don't know. I actually don't. I guess it depends on the breed and everything. And I don't know dogs well, but I have a cat, and I feel like I'm changing filters all the time here.
The most expensive filter is not always the best filter. And I'll tell you why, because the most expensive filters usually have a very, like, they catch a lot of particles. Like, they're very good at catching allergens, pet dander, all that kind of stuff. And that's kind of what their marketing is. So those ones, because they collect so much, they restrict the airflow of your system to a point where it may not necessarily be working at its full efficiency. So a better idea, and this is again coming from HVAC guys, Scott, you've worked in the industry, you can confirm or deny this. There are some of the like the mid-grade, the ones that don't have like a ton of particulate filtration, are actually slightly better because they do filter and they collect the dust and everything, but they allow more air to go through your system, and your system works more efficiently. So that's one of the things that I've heard about furnace filters, but I could be wrong.
I was a dispatcher, so I have no idea about the technical.
Yeah, I was hoping that we were going to get some expertise from all Scott.
Yeah, that's there's been times where like there's things there's things that I heard, and I'll like regurgitate that maybe in a home inspection at times. And then our HVAC guy came like a year or two ago to do the maintenance on our furnace, and I asked him a question, and what he said was the exact opposite of what I'd been saying for like 10 years. So I was like, he's like, maybe stick to your lane. I'm like, definitely going to do that.
Maybe
probably a good idea.
Yeah, stay in your lane.
Stay in your lane, boy.
I will say though, when you're changing the filters, this has nothing to do with the quality of the filters. Is that not the biggest pain? Maybe it's just mine, but like getting the little thing back on after you
never goes on. Like once that's off for the first time, it's never going back on.
I always need to
lean it up against there. And
it's so, I don't know. I wasn't sure if it was just like my big fat fingers that was the issue, but like it takes me so much longer to do that than anything else.
No, that's that might actually be talked about a little bit later on in the draft. That might be something that really grinds your gears for the draft topic. But,
we are doing a grind your gears spot. Yeah. But and just to wrap up, I don't know if there's anything else to add for the furnace and chimney. This is only number 3, but there was one last thing, just HVAC, I guess, that I thought of, was just to make sure you get your air conditioner covered up outside before the snow comes.
That's maybe you don't. So one thing.
I'm not the HVAC expert.
No, it's that's a couple of things from home inspectors. Is a lot of the times that the covers that come with the AC are not great because they actually keep moisture and everything in. So what one guy had said, and this was my first home inspector prior to the person I've been using for over a decade. He's like, put a piece of plywood over top with a brick on top, so you're not getting anything in where the fan is, because that's where it can rust. But you want airflow.
Interesting.
And that's a fact from a former dispatcher.
When I got my air conditioner, the guy never even tried to sell me a cover or anything like that. Like, he tried to sell me every other accessory in the book, but not a single person ever tried to sell me an air conditioner cover. And if you go to a big box store, hardware store, and try to find an air conditioner cover, they're like, we have some tarps and stuff. But covering your air conditioner outside the house is not a really big thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay, number 5 is repair loose roofing shingles.
Getting up on the roof is something that maybe a professional should be doing, unless you've got a very low roof and you're okay with a neck injury. You can go ahead and do it yourself, but I'd find a person to do it for you. You got to know what you're looking for too, right? Like, there's soft spots on roofs. Obviously, if it's peeling or if it's missing, then it's probably not. It's probably a shingle that you want to replace. But I mean, you want to kind of like tap it and make sure that the plywood is still intact and not moldy or anything like that.
Number 6 on the list, which is clean and inspect gutters. So if you're going up on a ladder and having a look and you see anything looks out of the ordinary, depending on where you are, you might have a newer roof, which might not be an issue. But if you're noticing that there's some issues with some leaking in on your ceiling, that kind of thing throughout the summer with all the rain, that might be the time. Because we kind of had an issue with, we back onto a school, so there's a big field, a lot of wind. We've lost our shingles in 2018 when those 2 massive windstorms happened. We've been pretty good ever since, but if we get a little side wind, sometimes a little water can get in. So we're getting someone to go up to sort of seal that off so that we're good and we don't get any leaking in our family.
I would never hesitate to call a roofer if you have concerns. You can go outside and see it pretty much, or use binoculars and see it even better if you really needed to without going up.
Pro tip, and John would get behind this. If you're a drone person, get your drone and have a peek. It's something that's pretty easy to do. That's the other thing about the winters. It's almost if you have a a bad roof, it's almost the time to sell, because so much can't do a home inspection if there's snow or ice on the roof. So maybe just a little pro tip from the boys.
A little pro tip. What are you, Saul Goodman?
Yeah.
So anyways, have a roofer come and take a look if you're concerned. Like, they are a business. They want your business. And if you're the one calling them to come and look at your roof, you're probably going to be calling them when you actually need to do that roof, and they're going to really make the actual money. So I would never hesitate calling a roofer and be like, hey, come have a look at this really quick. Also, side note, you talked about getting up on the roof, and we're talking about gutters too. I saw my neighbor the other day. He was on his roof with his leaf blower blowing out his gutters, which was pretty sweet. I would never do it because I can't go up there. I'm too scared to go up there. But yeah, he's up there blowing all the leaves out of his gutter.
Do you ever get up there with like a caulking gun and sort of get some of the leaks and gaps and stuff like that? And if there's any
it's a
leaks
good idea.
It's kind of like separated a little bit. You can get in there with some silicone or some.
For me, that's a spring thing, because I notice when the snow thaws, you can see where the water's dripping out of your we say eaves troughs. These articles say gutters. So you can kind of see where it's dripping. You can go get the caulking gun and get on the ladder. It sounds like Brad's not a ladder guy, so maybe he doesn't. But
you can go around the lower areas. Not. Keep in mind that a brick house, you've got to know if you've got a solid brick house or a brick veneer house, right? Most of us are a brick veneer. If we have bricks, if our house looks like it was made out of bricks, most of the time it was made out of wood with a brick veneer. So what happens is you need to get the moisture. Moisture will end up behind your bricks, between your bricks and your insulation, between your bricks and your walls. Water needs to wick out somewhere. So you can't seal the brick all the way around underneath, because moisture has to be able to get out of the brick, or you're going to rot your wood behind the brick. So
yeah, it's interesting you said that, because a lot of times when there are brick veneers, when you look at the caulking or how the mortar was done of the bricking, there's little holes in. That's obviously where that needs to come out from.
That's exactly what they're for. You don't want to seal those.
Yeah, people that don't know, or first time buyers are always like, oh, is that bad? And it's like, do not fill that, because that will be bad.
Look for ailing tree limbs.
I think it's not even so much ailing. I don't like the wording of that, but
no,
if you've got big mature trees, and for whatever reason in our subdivision, the builders put a tree on the boulevard and then one right in front of every house. And the tree on the boulevard is like a smaller tree, and the one right by the house are these massive maples. And they just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And their limbs are sometimes like, we took our tree down because it made no sense. The roots were causing for landscaping issues, but the branches were going into our second story balcony off one of the bedrooms, and it's a highway for squirrels and animals to get into your house.
Yeah.
But as they get going, like, you can kind of see when snow is and ice are getting on them, you don't want that thing falling in your house. So that's something to be monitoring as they grow, and or just get a nice company like we got to just pull out the chainsaw and take that sucker down.
Secure outdoor water sources. We already talked about that. That was part of our first one. And then the last one, I don't do this, but you guys might do this. Mark garden beds, paths, and driveways. Like, put a little thing down so you know where to shovel, I guess.
Oh yeah, okay.
It's not a bad idea. The one thing I'd say is, for like when you're walking the dog in the wintertime, I'll see a lot of people that put a lot of care into their gardens in the front. So they'll put like the things over them so that if they're more of a seasonal thing, it's not going to kill it. I think, and this is no slouch to the people working for our township, but there's so many we have one public sidewalk that's very heavily used that goes to a school at the end of our street. And every single year, whoever's plowing that thing has no idea where that sidewalk is. So the season starts and it's the spring, and half of the boulevard by the road is mud because they just caught the wrong line, and probably was 3 a.m. and they're just working hard on hour 13 of 14 for that shift. So maybe along public areas, but we're kind of a smaller subdivision, so it's not a lot of.
I guess I never really thought about that, right? Like to make sure they know where the sidewalk is. I don't have a sidewalk, so.
Didn't you say sidewalks in your area were taken care of by the township or the city?
The city the city plows all the
city
sidewalks.
Plows.
Yeah, we need to clip this and share it with the town of Whitby and City Oshawa, because that would be pretty nice.
Not too many. Nobody's listening at the town of Whitby right now.
No, they're
Oshawa maybe, but nobody's
striking.
Nobody's there. Nobody's answering the phone.
They're in front of the temporary drop-off location, shutting people into 2 hours of trying to get rid of their garbage. But I think you got something good going there. You enjoy that, Brad, out in Belleville, getting your sidewalk done for you. Well, you don't have a sidewalk, so I guess it doesn't matter.
There's one on my street. It's just not on my side.
Yeah, did they dig out the end of your driveway when they plow? Is that we talk about this one time?
I wish.
Dig out the end of your driveway?
No, I dig it out myself. Yeah.
The first time that happens and you have that big heavy one, and maybe it was overnight, so it's kind of frozen more. Every single time that happens, I go, why did I not get a snowblower last year on sale?
I think about that every year.
Every single year. And I bring it up with my neighbor and I said, we should go halves on one. He's like, that's a great idea. And then we just never, 8 years now, never done it. Maybe this is the year.
I think so. That was a great lead up into our draft topic, by the way. I just want to throw that out there. And hopefully no stick in the spokes as we segue into it.
I think we talk a lot about, especially as realtors, how great being a homeowner is. But there are some things that kind of stink with it. And that's certain tasks around the house. And that could be when you're renting a house too. It does nothing to do with maybe the ownership of it. Yeah. But when you're a responsible adult and you don't have parents doing everything for you anymore, you got tasks to do. You got chores. So our draft topic this week is worst tasks around the house. So that could be in the house or outside. I would say whether it's daily, weekly, or annual,
seasonally.
I'm interested to see, because I was kind of going through this one and I'm wondering if anyone gets some that you go, oh, that was a nice one, didn't think about that. I'm hoping.
Let's get that wheel up. Who's gonna select the order?
Here we go. I'm gonna share my screen with you boys.
Have we even talked about last week's?
No. We don't need to.
Scott won again, and I can't believe it. I am shocked. I thought I was a runaway winner. We were both run away from John for sure.
But shut up, you guys. You know what? I
don't want to rub this in John's face, but
you guys had the number 1 and number 2 picks 100%. You had the Billy Madison house, and you had the
John.
Home Alone house.
You chose second. You chose Wayne Manor second.
I was doing it to prove a point.
That's okay though.
My gripe. I do have a gripe that Scott took 2 things that weren't houses. Which
you don't want to go down this road.
I don't want to talk poorly about the audience, but
wait, clip this, John. Clip this. This will be.
Well, what are we doing here? We're letting a guy win a house draft with 2 of his picks weren't houses.
What was your last pick?
Was it not the White House?
Yes, Independence Day, the White House, and this was a iconic movie homes draft. No one in Men in Black lived in the White House. It was in it for a very short moment where it was blown up.
You took a hotel. You took a hotel in a dorm,
but it's where they lived. Okay. No one lived in the White House other than the president.
Someone lives there.
The president had nothing to do with that movie.
See, I think
so. You shot yourself in the foot. You had the best first overall pick that you could get, which was the Home Alone house. I thought it was over after that, and you fumbled it at the final yard line.
If I could go back now, John, I would make him have taken Richie Rich house, and then we would have slapped that blank check house after him. And I think we could have been
one thing that did come up, and I realized when I was talking to my wife about this, because she was a big Richie Rich blank check fan. I talked about a McDonald's being in the blank check house. That was Richie Rich's house.
Okay.
The blank check house had all the vines along the outside of it, and that was what got me though, was the slide from his room into the pool when I was a kid was like the coolest thing. I thought it was going to be a little bit of an obscure pick, but when we did the poll for do you remember the blank check house, it was in like the 90% that they're like, oh yeah, and there was only like 1 or 2 votes of people who had no idea what we were talking about, but they were younger. So
yeah, we're old.
So I'm gonna pull up and again, we've had a lot. Maybe this could be a thing that could be sponsored, is the Wheel of Names, because a lot of people seem to really like this portion of the podcast, seeing who will get the win.
Is that true?
I think it's John's time to shine. I feel like he's going to win. So we got the spinning wheel around here. Oh boy. This isn't even one I really cared to.
It's Brad. No, it's Scott.
It's Scott. And yeah,
it's right on the border.
All right, draft order. I'll go third. I'm going to have Brad go first and John go second.
Okay.
So I'll just go ahead. First pick of the worst tasks around the house, inside and outside of the house. I'm going to go with one that I do not like to do and don't do it often enough, and it's cleaning the oven. It's the worst.
You know that we have self-cleaning ovens now, right? Like you just
I'm not fancy. It's funny you say that, I hear a lot about your picks, John, and Scott's picks in past drafts, and I realize you guys are much more like advanced than me, and I got some more old school stuff there.
That one too, John. That's a good one for the year in review.
Yeah,
more advanced.
Yeah, yuppie maybe.
Yuppie.
I don't not calling anybody names. I'm just saying.
You just did.
Look, I've definitely cleaned an oven or 3 in my life, and I don't. It is a task, right? It is. If your oven doesn't have the self-cleaning mode, or if you're just not satisfied with how it actually cleans.
Does
properly,
the self-cleaning mode actually do it though?
So I got to bring this up because when we got our first place, it was filthy. So we moved in, and it was a couple months in, and it was bothering Jess, my wife, and she's like, "I'm going to use this self-cleaning oven feature," and she turns it on, and now we've learned that it just goes to like over 500 degrees and just cakes everything off, so it's easy to clean. And she's like, "I don't think it's working. It's just really hot, and there's no suds in there." And I looked at her and I went, "What?" And she thought somehow there was water connected to this oven with cleaning products, and that it was just gonna like jetson itself and clean it. I love her to death. But Jess, that was a rough one.
Yeah, and you aired that out for her.
Yeah, she doesn't listen to this. She thinks she cares. She just looks at the thing and then votes for someone other than me. It seems. Love you.
It just like it turns your oven into basically just like a nuclear reactor and just opens everything.
Yeah. Now, John, would this have been your first pick?
No, but it's on my list. It's there. It's on the list.
Deep down there, but that's okay. Good pick. Clean the oven.
I don't think there is a 1-1.
I don't think so either. But there's some tough ones.
There's a couple. I'm gonna get kind of specific, but it's the grossest thing that I have. Like the grossest thing that anybody does here is taking out your organics or your green bin. So if you have a green bin program where you live, and we do here in Durham region as well as Toronto, and I assume the Quinte region has a green bin as a green bin program, that's probably the grossest thing. You have to use the biodegradable bags, which are the worst bags for the worst product. Like the worst that you're putting the worst thing in the worst possible bag and expected to put it in another bin, drag it out to the curb, and then put it back inside or in your backyard, wherever you keep it, garage, whatever, smelling like whatever was just in it. So it's the worst task. I think that for me would be a round 1, pick 1. Like that's a 1-1 winner all day long, the green bin.
John, have you seen, you talked about the bags. They were always the worst because the top of them had no real way to seal it. You had to find a fun way to, have you seen the new ones with the green kind of Ziploc where you whoop and then you can tie it up like a garbage bag?
I have seen those advertised. I haven't bought them yet, but
they are a game changer. So
maybe
this might be a 4th round pick after you use those instead of a 1st if you like them.
Maybe.
Anyways, let's get off that one because it's friggin' gross, but that's a good pick, John.
All right.
I got 2 in a row here. I'm gonna say it's got to do with something that's done every week. It's the laundry, and it's the folding of the laundry.
The laundry? Okay.
Folding specifically. Folding
specific, because I don't think laundry you can take all of it because there's different tasks to it. I think it's the laundry is done and it is just sitting there in the bin, and you're going, I don't want to touch that there. And especially once you have some small humans running around and they have so many little socks that they seem to just get dirty when they're really young and in diapers. You're going through clothes like crazy, so you're just got all these little things that you just the moment you fold them, you got another one coming at you. So I'm gonna say folding laundry.
What's the laundry situation in your house? Is it you do your own laundry, she does her own laundry, it's totally separate?
It's all together.
Who does it mostly, if we had to say percentage-wise?
Jess would be laughing if she heard this. She definitely, because she seems to go through more. Like I've brought this up a million times.
So it's a pander.
When I got into university, I was no, it's not. I'll go through this. We have a couple seconds here. Right. I got enough gitch. I got socks, underwear that could last me a month. So I don't need to do the bare essentials. And then if they kind of say not to wash your jeans that often. A lot of people say to freeze them. And if you have enough tops or shirts, you're good for a longer period of time, where it seems like Jess does 4 wardrobe changes in a day and it fills up really quickly. So she definitely does the putting it in and then switching it over, and then it gets in a big bin in our house. And then the bin sits there until one of us folds, and it's usually me that folds. Now there's other aspects to this that could still get drafted, which maybe I should have tried to push for, done a Brad and tried to get more out of my pick. But so that's ours. We don't need to know everyone's laundry habits. First pick, second round is putting the dishes away. So running the dishwasher, sweet, that's fine. It sits there, and then you gotta take that time
the unloading away.
Sometimes they're soaking wet still, sometimes if it's fresh, it's smoking hot, and it's just that time where you look at it and you're like, I don't want to do this.
I like stuff that stacks neatly. Like I'm okay putting away plates and bowls, and maybe it's just when you get into the cutlery is just such a, and it's noisy, like it's loud because you're like clang 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 clang. I just can't stand the noise of it.
Tupperware,
and then Tupperware, like all the stuff that just doesn't fit into somewhere else, the things that you have to make room for and you don't even want it there to begin with, you're like, I gotta to get rid of some of this stuff. It's terrible as I cram it in and slam the door so it stays closed. Yeah. Like, it's just the worst. Like, unloading a dishwasher is worse than, in my opinion, worse than the other thing that you could do with dishes, which I'm not going to mention, but it's pretty obvious.
Hey, look at John's learned so well. He's such a vet now. I love it. The other thing is, like, once you get kids and they have so many little things. So you might get a water bottle, and the water bottle's got its lid and its bottom, and it has this stupid straw that never fully cleans well, and it's always wet. You kind of got to wait for it to dry, and then you got to assemble the thing, pop it back in, and that's one cup. And they go through 40 cups. Sometimes they're halfway through using one cup, and then they start crying because they have the wrong color cup and they need another cup. So
you only have one of those right now.
Well, drafting offers announcement. It's social media. Baby number 2 is on the way for the Morgan household. So we're excited to say that in the new year, I will have some serious bags under my eyes for a very long period of time, because
congratulations.
Thank you.
The drafting offers baby.
Look at that segue from Brad.
Drafting offers baby watch.
Threw that one on a tee. Yeah, baby watch.
Baby watch 2024.
I think when you first have that baby, though, there's a lot, like, there's so much cleaning. Like, I know when
there's so many things.
My oldest one, it was like all I did was clean stuff.
And sterilizing, because they can't get sick or any issues. Yeah. So you have all these bottles, and like if you try to travel, it's like the smaller they are,
is there the smaller they are, or is this just the same? Are we still going on about the last thing?
Let's get to the next pick.
John's like, I gotta edit this thing. Shut up. Okay, so second round, second pick for John.
It's the shoveling of the driveway, and if you don't have a snowblower, shoveling is 10 times worse. If you do have a snowblower, it's a bit of a pain, because then you got to get the thing out and pull start it. It's usually gas power or whatever. So you got to make sure that piece of equipment is running. If you're just hand bombing everything with a shovel, it's potentially the worst thing on your back and on your shoulders. So shoveling a driveway has just got to be the worst, one of the worst.
It wasn't high on my list, but I would say, I have a long driveway, and if it's really wet snow, then this is really high. But if it's fluffy light snow and I can just like put on my earbuds and listen to a podcast while I'm doing it, I actually don't really mind it very much. But
I'm with you. Sometimes the shoveling is a nice little exercise. You get a sweat on, and you can bring the little guy out with you and do it. But
or the opposite, you get time away.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that too. But to go with John's pick, like, you wake up in the morning and everyone has their routine and their place they got to be right away, and you wake up and you see that it snowed overnight in a significant amount, and you're going, not only do I have to dig my car out, I have to shovel this sidewalk or driveway so that if anyone slips and falls, I'm not getting sued for millions of dollars.
So sidewalks.
It's just like, it's that feeling of, oh man, I don't want to do this. Or it's the end of the night and you've had your dinner and the fire's on, you're watching your show, and you just see there's just so much, like, I got to get to this before the morning. So good pick, John.
Okay, so with my next pick, I'm going to be picking raking the leaves. And I think this varies per person, but honestly, that hurts my back probably more than shoveling snow. Like, when I think about going out, raking the leaf and bending over and putting in the bag, I'm like, that I want to rip my hair out for this. And I also have so many leaves, and I'm the one who, like, I'll leave those leaves out there longer than I should, because I just want to do it once. Because if I go and do it today, I'm going to have to do it again next week for sure. So raking leaves is just not my thing. It's never been my thing. And I don't have a blower, like a leaf blower. And I don't even know how that would even make it that much better, because I'm still having to put it all into the bags.
You can at least get it into a pile a little better. We have one that it's kind of a pain in the butt. It was a mulcher. So like, it sucks it up and crushes it into a bag, and then you pour the bag into your it just seemed like that if you just go and rake, it takes way less time to rake. Get the really wide, I can't see here, the wide set rake. It seems to have a better shadow. This was one that was on my list big time. I was hoping that it would get around to me, but given the season, I figured it wouldn't. Again, we talked about the trees being removed. We have 0 trees on our front of our property. And somehow this year, the way things blew and the angle of our street, everyone from across the streets came over. So we did 9 bags on the weekend, 0 trees.
And no trees.
Well, the people that had the trees had no bags, because they're like, this is great. It just blows over at our side. You know what, though? When I was doing it, all the kids and a couple parents were playing out front, and a few actually helped helped out. I think they felt bad. So big ups to some nice neighbors. So Brad.
Okay.
Nice pick. You get another one.
This one's not in season, but it's something I really hate doing, and it's weeding the gardens.
Oh.
I might have a big thing. The last two were like, I think about how hard this is on my back. Both of them, like, as soon as I see it, I'm like, oh, that's a sore back.
Remember that thing, the garden claw? Remember that thing you used to be able to get, which was like a little tiller, a little handle. It's like a stick. You stick it in, and then you twist it, and it just kind of yanks out the weed. You ever use one of those things?
I do use it I have one of those. I use it in my yard for my dandelions. But I'm thinking more so like specifically like your garden here.
Mm-hmm. Weeding garden.
Yeah, because a lot of the weeds are really sharp. You got to use glass. So the weeds that have they're genetically engineered to keep bugs away, right? Because that's just the way they are. And so it keeps human hands away because they're covered in these tiny little spikes. And so you got to get the gloves out or use some kind of a shovel or whatever.
Yeah, it's a very very
tough
good
on your hands.
It doesn't matter if it's on.
You guys had a lot to say about weeding before the podcast today too.
Different kind of weeding.
Yeah, different kind of weeding. Yeah,
medicinal weeding.
First of all, that claw thing is okay. There's one though where you can like use your foot that we have, so like stomps and claws. That one has been a huge saver. The weeds just keep coming. Like it doesn't matter. That's what gets me about this one is they never stop. We back onto a school, like I just said. They aren't doing any weeding out there, so everything's blowing into our yard, and it doesn't matter if you do all of them in one day. In 2 weeks, you're getting weeds again. I love my wife, but she made a funny comment when we first moved into our first house. Was that she's like, I don't get why you worry about them so much. She's like, the grass is green, the weeds are green. Like just let it. And I said, no, that's not how it goes. But weeding sucks. It sucks so bad.
Well, that one is like if I wanted to be specific, the garden bothers me more than the lawn because the lawn is like I have one of those things. Step on it, twist it, doesn't kill my back.
Johnny, third pick.
I'm going to the bathroom for this one, and because I don't think we've really talked about the can yet. It's cleaning the toilets. Yeah. If you're one person living in one place with one toilet, like I am, it's not the end of the world. And I'm not I don't mind cleaning. I don't mind cleaning my own house and things like that. But it's just you don't really feel like you've accomplished anything because as soon as the toilet's clean, it's dirty again. So cleaning the toilet is like it's terrible. It's unsatisfying. And
you hit the nail on the head though. It's how you maintain it. If you're like yourself and taking care of it as you're doing it, it can last you longer. But when you get kids that don't know how to aim, or it's a nightmare. So that was one. That's two back to back. I'm a little frazzled because I have to take two in a row here, and I was hoping those would both be around.
There's lots, man. There's so lots on this.
There are lots. I am just gonna go out with like taking out the garbage and recycling. Two things that suck about it. First of all, it's constant because you're always going through recycling garbage. And I remember in university it was awful. Even more so because we would play the game of Jenga, and you were trying to stack that thing as high as you could to not be the one to have to take it out.
Yeah.
We kind of do that a little bit. Yeah, exactly. We kind of do this a little bit in our house, but not to the same magnitude. My wife likes to do the thing where she just takes the sides and stretches them up so more can fit in. So she's not taking it out, which is a very, very chestnut checkers move. But every time I see it, I'm like, the time that you just took to do that, you could just tie it up. Anyways,
you could just tie it up and taking it out. Yeah.
The worst part of it, there are memes on socials about this one. It's breaking down the recycling portion of it. So we have our garage, and it seems like Amazon is at our house all the time, especially now that we have another kid coming. We're having to get boxes of everything, and it's a game of I'm just going to open the door and throw that out there. And when it comes time to actually take it out, which is my job, I'm spending 20 minutes just breaking down boxes. And that's a big thing for me. So
and sorting too, right? Yeah, you go cardboard in one bin and containers in the other bin, like glass and plastic and metal and stuff in another bin. So you've got it. You like I do the same kind of thing where I just sort of throw things out. I got to take a cardboard box and toss it there, and I'm like, it's good until Tuesday. Then Tuesday comes along, or Monday night, or Tuesday morning comes along, and I'm like, oh no, I got to break all these cardboard boxes down, sort all the cans and everything, and it's a whole thing. And then I have to get it to the curb. So that's
my procrastinating self in that moment. I remember when I hear the truck coming around our street, and at this point in the morning, I usually have my son who's eating his breakfast, and I'm prepping everything there and going, oh no. So now I'm trying to just cram everything in. Like our poor person that does the pickup, like a lot of the times it's just full boxes with smaller boxes in them that are just sitting there at the curb, and it's like, thanks, man. But taking out garbage and recycling is a tough one.
I have a question for you. So
yeah, let's hear it.
All right. So when it comes to taking out the garbage, probably a bigger pain for me than actually taking out the garbage is not having bag tags, like garbage bag tags at home, because then I have to go and buy them.
Do you tag every piece, or do you get a certain allotment?
We have to tag every single piece. There's no, put out the bag and they'll take one or whatever.
Do they take garbage every week? Okay,
every week.
So that's where we differ. We have garbage. We have recycling every week and green bin every week, but garbage is every other. And we're allotted 4 bags. Anything over, you need a bag tag for. So it's basically 2 bags a week that they will take, but it all happens at one time.
Yeah, the most painful part about garbage for me is when I realize I don't have the bag tags and it's Friday morning and I have to put out the garbage. It's probably the worst.
That was a last pick of the 3rd round, so I have to take another one, which I'm just going to say... We'll have to get a terminology for this, but it's basically like meal planning. It's not the cooking. It is the like coming up with different ideas for stuff to make all the time. Like every day you got multiple meals that you got to figure out, and I don't want to eat the same thing every day. So I'm going to say like meal planning.
That's meal planning and prepping. Yeah, sure. I think so. And that's a pain. Like that's especially if you've just got no motivation to eat healthy and you're like, I don't want to do this. And then you just don't.
Well, and then it ends up you buy a bunch of stuff and half of it gets wasted because you have no plan for it, or you buy all that stuff and then that night you're tired and you're just like, all right, let's order some sushi or something. Like so it ends up and then if you get kids, you think you've planned the meal for them and then you make this really nice thing that they like every time you serve it, and then that time they don't and they want a grilled cheese instead. So coming up with different things. So I'd say meal, like that's maybe not a haymaker pick, but that one is me being true to my life.
I'm taking something a little bit more seasonal, putting up Christmas lights, whether that's a ladder and a staple gun. If you're a Clark Griswold type of personality, then you're getting up there with the ladder and you're cutting, batting and everything else, and maybe you're flooding your roof with white lights. If you are a person who's a little bit more, sometimes there's like the spotlights that are uplighting, or the one that's projects a laser image on your house. Those are the kinds of the easier tasks to do. But I'd say putting up strings of Christmas lights around the house is probably one of the worst things. Great end result, right? Like it's not like cleaning a toilet where it's just going to get dirty again. At least you have something to look at when you're finished with this task.
My rule is after
Remembrance Day. Sure, yeah.
And but I have already went out and purchased like those little like clips to put on my house to put them up. But I hate going on a ladder, so this is either my dad or my father-in-law to come over and help me out with task.
You gotta get your roofer to put him up while he's checking your shingles.
Get your rent yourself a little skyjack.
Cleaning the gutters for you too. Yeah, John, this is a great pick. There's nothing good about it. It's timely. You got it in the 4th round. I'm liking how your team's shaking out right now. I feel like you might.
So am I.
You might not be 30 picks behind everyone else this week.
Well,
that was really good.
Okay, so
I saw an amazing hack. Okay, so if you have a tension rod, a curtain rod.
Saw that one.
Did you, with the garland wrapped around it and the lights? Oh, come on.
So in a door frame of a house, they put the tension curtain rods, wrapped it with garland and some lighting, and then you can't see my hands, moved it all the way up, and there was a pretty cool hack, and you kind of couldn't see the bar.
I'm not a Scrooge when it comes to. I'm not a huge Scrooge when it comes to Christmas.
I think we should make December's podcast all holiday themed. What do you guys think? Can we do that?
We can figure out a way to do that.
Can we have Santa come on as a guest appearance?
I don't know. Do you know the big guy?
I've met him.
You have his number?
Yeah.
He goes.
Is he on Instagram?
He goes to the Quinny Mall sometimes, so I could maybe pass him a note.
Yeah, he's been to the Oshawa Pickering ones too. I think I've seen him there.
I have 2 picks in a row here, and my next pick is something that I hate doing. I feel like we're going on different paths here, all of us, but mine's washing windows. I hate it. Outside, inside, I hate doing it.
Yeah. Like you get a extendable pole and you kind of do that thing, or do you just like roll the dice?
I'll get the pressure washer at times and just fire it. I kind of like, usually I'll do it on a hot day and it mists you. So I feel like you're at the misting station at Canada's Wonderland.
And then you have a big squeegee.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily do that portion of it.
You don't squeegee?
We have like washing your car and leaving it. Yeah.
Oh yeah. You just let them air dry with water spots on them? No way. You got a squeegee. I got a squeegee. I was like a 16-foot pole or a 20-foot pole or something with a squeegee on the end of it, and the brush, like the little soft thing. You wash your windows like a pro.
It sucks. Okay. There's some good people in our region that have a good business of just doing that for businesses and homeowners because they don't want to do it. So obviously
Yeah.
That is not a task people like to do. And again, if you don't like ladders, go into that second story if you have one.
I don't do it.
Well,
And it takes so long. Like if we get a cleaner in with real estate stuff here, but if we get a cleaner in for someone prior to listing their house, it's like, okay, you can clean the house, and like the windows is like a second thing. Like it's like, yeah, clean the house and the windows, because you
got to add that in.
That's like an additional cost and additional huge task for them that's going to take so much longer, and it's a task I just do not like doing, that's for sure. Okay, and then last one, this is my last pick. I have so many different things on here. I'm going to go with cleaning the eaves troughs. Something, we talked about it earlier, and I told you about my neighbor using his little leaf blower, blowing it out. The problem is I personally am not going to do that, because I'm not going to get on my roof with a leaf blower that I don't even own, and it's something that I just put off. And it probably wouldn't even take me that long if I just put my mind to it, but not something I like to do.
Yeah, secret time, I've never done it. One time.
If you're going to go the leaf blower method, just make sure there's no bird's nest in there before you do it, or you're going to have a bit of a problem. You're going to create a bigger problem than you're trying to solve. So just make sure there's no bird's nest or anything like that, robin's eggs inside your eaves troughs before you blast them into oblivion.
So there we go. Brad's team is finished. John,
I'm rounding mine out. I'm going to round mine out with something that's going to get a lot of people riled up right now, and it's packing the kids' lunches.
Again, so this is an absolute pander pick. It's something you don't even do.
Well, this pander pick, I do. Hey, I help sometimes. I help wherever I can when I'm not here.
All right.
I do. It's packing the kids' lunches, and of course, like there's going to be feedback. It's like, why did you give me this today instead of this? Like it's always that, but it's just the time it takes in the evening or in the morning to kind of get everything ready and make sure that they're school. So if you're a young kid, you go to school, you're encouraged to bring things that are no waste, right? So no waste lunches. Either you bring things in reusable plastic containers, or metal or plastic or whatever, or glass is what I meant to say. You bring those things in those containers, and you bring everything home with you, because there's no garbage cans. Like you can't just throw out your whatever wrappers in the classroom anymore. So you've got to bring everything home. When you bring everything home, all of the junk, all of the garbage is now in your kid's lunch bag instead of in the garbage where it should be. So all of that stuff now has to be dealt with, and then you have to get all these things ready and then wash and everything for the next day. So
yeah, but it does suck, and it's daily that's happening, and it's one thing that gets brought up when summer is over and they're going, oh geez, now I have to pack lunches. So it kind of goes hand in hand with like, what am I going to make them? The meal prepping, and then the packing of the kids' lunches every weekend. So I feel very much a pander pick, but
it is a
what
task.
I do. Brad, I don't know about you. What I do respect out of this is that was a great play by John. Like that was a number 5 pick, solid.
What were you going to take that?
The kid is learning.
I'm the only one with a child in school. Scott's not packing lunches yet.
No. Thanks to the daycare for banging those out. But
I couldn't take it. I don't think my wife would ever listen to this podcast, but just in case she did, and I did take it, I would get some death stares, because it's not something I do, and I did it yesterday, and was not sufficient to her liking this morning.
So that's one of those moments you did it bad on purpose, just so you never have to do it again.
We try to pack it like the night before instead of cramming the morning of, but and I packed it last night, and she looked at it this morning and was like, no. It's pizza day today. I didn't think it would be that big of a deal.
Yeah, crank a Lunchable in there, you're good to go.
All right, you get judged.
Last but not least, there are many on the board. There are some chalk ones that are just like boring. I'm going to go with one. It is a little niche, but even people that don't have dogs, I think, will realize it sucks. It's the post-thaw backyard picking up the poo. Because no matter what in the winter, it's cold, and there's times you're letting your dog out. Maybe not if you live in a condo, but you're letting your dog out, and they're going to go. And sometimes it's dark, because it's dark almost 18 hours of the day here, and the dogs go. You maybe don't see it, or maybe you do, and I'll get to that later. And then the next snowfall comes on it. And when that snow thaw happens, it is just a landfill or landmine of bombs out there. And that day I put off until it's like our son has to go out to play in the backyard, where you realize he can't do that because there's more bad than good out there. And that moment, the hesitation of I really don't want to do this, is maybe my least favorite thing of the year to have to do. And it's picking up the dog poo after the snow thaw.
I'm with you.
I know, but I'm sticking to my guns here.
I used to have 2 big dogs, and they were, they left big big piles in the backyard. You know, as much as we tried to get out there kind of when it happened, you're right about when the snow comes along or when it's just miserable weather and you're like, oh, I'll just get to that one later. I'll pick it up the next time. I'll do double duty. And then the next time you're like, I'll just put that off a little bit more duty. So I think it's a good pick. I think it's, I don't think it's a niche pick really. I think it's a pretty...
People that are going to realize it will maybe be more so the dog people, but I think others will realize, yeah, that sucks. We are getting tight on time here, so I'll go over the list here. So team 1, Brad, clean the oven, raking the leaves, weeding, window washing, and cleaning the eaves troughs. John is taking out the green bin, shoveling snow, cleaning the toilets, putting up Christmas lights, and packing the kids' lunches. Scott is folding the laundry, putting away dishes, taking out the garbage recycling, meal planning, and picking up dog poo after snow thaw. So what do we have on the drafting room floor?
I'm just wondering why nobody took vacuuming.
I think it was too boring. It was too boring. And if I'm being honest with you, ever since we got the Dyson a few years ago, it's not the worst.
It's not that bad.
No,
you don't have a cord behind you. There's nothing to plug in. I like
that. I like that.
I don't know, flexibility with it. It kind of feels cool.
Okay, I'll go with I'll go with mine if you want. Cleaning the baseboard, unclogging the drains, cleaning the ceiling fan because you know that's gonna get everywhere and suck. Putting away the summer activities, just not because it sucks to do so much, more just like depressing to know that it's over. Washing the walls because that's a crazy thing to do. Not having a furnace filter when you need it.
Like just even dishes. I mean, rather than just kind of like just washing dishes, not necessarily emptying the dishwasher, but actually washing dishes.
I had the dishwasher because that's a back that hurts the back washing the dishes.
Yes, you're leaning and it's wet and it's all that. I drafted putting up the Christmas lights. I was going to say taking down the Christmas lights is another thing.
That's one that it sucks so bad. A lot of people don't do it. Like it's June. I've been guilty of doing it on the May long weekend because you didn't get a good day for a while.
Well, putting up the Christmas lights is tough, but I mean, at least you have something cool to look at afterwards, and you feel like, hey, look at I put up all my Christmas lights this weekend. It looks beautiful. 5 o'clock comes around, it's already dark, and they look good. Taking down the Christmas lights is the depressing thing because the season's over and that's it. Although you may have spring to look forward to.
Yeah, it's the equivalent of going away on vacation and you like the travel to get there. You're like, it's cool, we're going there, and then when you're coming home, you're like, this sucks.
The only other bigger ones I had on my list would be dusting, just general dusting around the house, and opening and closing your swimming pool if you've got a pool. And if you do it yourself instead of having a person come, if you're doing that, if you're a pool opener and closer and you're lucky enough to have a swimming pool in the backyard, that's comes with its share of maintenance. So
I have a couple here. So mopping, which kind of sucks. The Swiffer now is easier, but putting away the clothes after the laundry. So the folding sucks, but then sometimes they sit folded in the bin and you just don't want to put it away. And then you end up just having 2 bins of clean or dirty clothes. So putting away the clothes, paying the bills. Some things are automated nowadays, but you get the things in the mail and you're just like, gee, picking up the mail kind of sucks often too. Making your bed, doing that every day. It's not for me. We just like getting into a bit of a messy bed because you're just going to make it messy anyways. Walking the dog in the rain or snow, something that's not done maybe as often as it should be, but cleaning the fridge, taking the stuff out and actually giving it a proper clean and putting that back. I never want to do it, but every time you see it's messy, you're like, we got to get on that. So
I was thinking about doing that the other day. Yeah.
Maybe today's the day, John.
Maybe today's it. Maybe it's it. Yeah.
Yeah, so we've been getting some great responses through our drafting polls. Our numbers have been going up for actually people picking. But if you are listening or watching and you don't follow us on Instagram already, it is at the Drafting Offers Podcast. So once this is released, you can head over the following day. There will be 3 days of voting in the poll. And we'd love to hear who you think won because that's what this is all about. We want the bragging rights. So
that's it for me.
That's it for me.
Yeah.
Here's a to-do list. Go do it.
We'll see you guys soon. Have a good one,
guys. Have a good one. You've been listening to the Drafting Offers Podcast. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at the Drafting Offers Podcast and vote for this week's draft champ. That's also how you can get directly in touch with us if you have any questions about this week's show. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and catch every episode on Spotify. We hope you enjoyed this episode and we can't wait for you to join us again for another episode of the Drafting Offers Podcast.